I'm Julia McCarthy. Like Matt said, I'm from New Hampshire, and my social action project is about improving the middle and elementary school in my community. Oh, it won't. There we go. Okay. So a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm from Wakefield. I'm a junior at Spalding, which is a couple towns over in Rochester. And I went to Paul School for grades K through 8. And Paul School is the sole school in my community. It's got a population of about 500 kids with an average of about 40 kids per grade. Or I mean, per grade. And my brother's currently an 8th grader there. And this is a picture of me with my debate team, which is something I'm really passionate about at Spalding. So just before I get into my project, I'd like to talk a little bit about the problem. In 2017, I was in 6th grade at the time. Paul School transitioned to become its own SAU, which drastically changed the operations of like everyday school. For example, since I've graduated, the entirety of the middle school team and all of the teachers in the middle school have quit, along with the entire administration, which includes our superintendent. In addition to that, the entire elementary, a very big handful of the elementary teachers have also left. And this creates a huge lack of consistency in the lives of these students because their teachers are constantly changing. For example, my brother, since he started middle school, has had 3 different science teachers. And the way it's set up at Paul School is you're supposed to have the same one the whole time. So it's incredibly difficult for these students to make deep and personal connections with their teachers, which makes it really difficult for them to stay engaged and have a good learning environment. Additionally, there's a lack of educational resources, which includes accessibility for tutoring or homework help, and also lack of information surrounding learning disabilities. My brother also has a learning disability that's not as well known or talked about, and I've seen firsthand how difficult it can be to get a diagnosis and fight for accommodations in a school where there's not a lot of information surrounding that. So that's definitely a problem that I'd really like to address. So why is this important? A lot of the Paul School students struggle significantly with the transition to high school. The high school that we go to has a population of about 400 kids per grade for a total of 1,600. So going there from a school where there's only 40 kids in your grade is an extremely difficult transition, especially when all of the kids that you're joining have already known each other since elementary school and already have deep personal connections. So not only is it difficult socially, but Spalding operates on an entirely different grading and educational program than Paul School. So it's very difficult to transition educationally on top of all of the social hardships. Additionally, middle school is very impactful in their very formative years. And if students can't get a deep basis for education, it can entirely change A, their outlook on education, and B, just their whole plan for their life. And these students deserve the best education possible, and I think that's something that we should really fight to give them. So the Panther Project is my attempt at remedying these things as best as I can. It's called the Panther Project because it's the Paul School Panthers. I thought that was kind of cute. But the main idea is I'm going to conduct research on the best ways to attempt to work on these issues, looking into homework help and into learning disability education and stuff like that to create a presentation that I'm going to present to the school board and then collaborate with them and working with teachers and students to find specific issues, what they really need and what they need first, and outlining the timeline of projects to implement. And from there, we move into the implementation stage, taking the information and feedback that we've gotten from teachers and students to actively fix these issues and implement new projects and new ways of learning. The logistics, this is a 2-part plan. So there's the presentation aspect and collaboration where I work with the school board and teachers and students. And then there's the implementation phase where we're actively putting these projects into place and actively seeing results from these students and teachers. The time span for this, I hope to work to get to the implementation stage around spring. The school board meets about every week or so, and with holidays, I'll hope to meet with them in the next month or so. And then after that, I hope that the Panther Project can be a long-term thing because there can always be improvements to be made. I hope to pass this on to my brother when he's in high school after I've graduated. That way there can always be new improvements and the Panther Project can adapt to the Paul School's needs. Because I need to work with the school board and collaborate with teachers, the budget is a little bit harder to define, but there have been a lot of resources that I've already looked into and plan to work to implement that I've included in my budget. So there are four main areas of learning that I'd like to focus on, but for terms of just staying good on time, I'm going to go in depth on one of them and then just briefly explain the other three. So the really big one for me is experiences. I would love to provide students with immersive real world experiences. For example, you might not remember a specific science lesson, but you definitely remember those really engaging and fun field trips that you go on to learn about plants or about to the zoo to learn about animals. So these are really great things that impact students far more than just the standard lesson. And it's also really important because it provides different ways of learning for kids who might not do as well in a classroom setting. So this would include sponsoring field trips to historical sites or museums, outdoor locations, and specifically community engagement. And this also helps kids look at a lot of different aspects of life and the workforce to learn about what they want to do. And then I'd love to bring back guest speakers. When I was in elementary school, guest speakers were a lot more common and then it began to dwindle, especially as we changed SAUs. And I'd love to bring that back. And then lastly, collaborating with Friends Forever International because they have a lot of resources and connections in terms of these experiences. And I'd love to work with them to bring some of those to Paul School. So really quickly, the other three are educational resources, which includes free tutoring programs and homework help, then physical resources like providing school supplies to teachers and students, as well as spreading information about the food pantry and other resources in the town, and then learning resources, which would focus on spreading information and awareness on learning disabilities and accommodations that can help students succeed in schools. So if you'd like to support my project, I do have a GoFundMe, which I will put into the chat. And then other than that, are there any questions?